Hey everybody, my name's Rio, and welcome back to another episode of the Indie Game Devlog, where I go over the development of my indie project, Orb, an interdimensional puzzle platformer inspired by the Portal franchise. In this episode, I'm going to be going over all of the additions and changes made to the game in the last month or so. Anyways, let's get into it. So in this episode, I've got a lot of bigger and smaller changes to show you guys, so let's start off with something on the smaller end. After the previous episode, I realized that one thing that I hadn't changed yet was the cursor, as it was still made to match the old concept where the user got to travel between 4 different dimensions. So I took the Illustrator asset and adjusted it to match the now 3-dimensional concept, as well as changing the colors to match the current color scheme. So nothing too big, but pretty essential. Another small yet impactful thing that I added to the game was smooth landing. It's a small change, but definitely adds more weight to the player's jumps. This idea was actually suggested by Archer, and he also showed me how to do it, so thank you for that. Now that we've covered those smaller things, let's head into something more substantial. Now, for those who don't know, in the demo there was this ball mechanic, and its only purpose was literally just to be an exclusive power source for the gravity generators. However, I didn't quite like the look and feel of it, not to mention that it was very similar to something that already exists. So I decided to reconsider the concept and think on how I could add a little bit of charm to it, or, make it more personal. What I did was I decided to make it match the concept of the gravity generator, as it was an exclusive thing for that. So in the story, these, rather than these being just spheres now, are replaced by these pipes. And these pipes are essentially trash chutes that drop anything and everything, as that's the purpose of the gravity generator, to be able to take any object and convert it into energy with its gravitational pull. So it seemed like a fun joke to have it be a trash chute. This mechanic has been done for ages, however, it never really had a model. So one of the first things I did was go through some different iterations, and after that I decided to go for a more metallic look, as, like I said, these pipes are essentially garbage chutes that'll drop items for the player, that they can use then inside the gravity generator. And I haven't modeled the items that actually come out of the dispenser, but I do have some plans for it, like a rarity system, where there's a small chance that you'll get some more unique items or some funny special items that could be references or jokes drop out of the dispenser. So the code for the rarity system is all there, I just need to make the models. And with that, I actually want to ask something to everybody, that if you have any fun ideas of things that you want to see come out of the dispenser in the game, that maybe you can leave it in the comments. Who knows, I might actually add it in. Right now, the only thing that I've got planned is some basic things like a robot arm or a head, some cardboard boxes, or maybe an empty power cell. But yeah, if you guys have any fun ideas on what to add in it, make sure to let me know. And after that was finished, I decided to work more on a mechanic that was actually seen within the demo, and that is these shields, which I don't think are ever really given a name within the demo. Right now I have them labeled as either mono shields or mono fields. I can't quite decide which one I like more, so I might run a poll on the name of the server, but regardless, I got a lot of work done on them. In the demo, you only get to see 2 different model types, a 2x3 meter model type and a 5x3 meter model type. And for this, I had to make a completely different blueprint to adjust the collision and the scaling on everything, because if I just scaled it up in the editor, it would cause stretching and it just looked bad. Looking back on it now, I realized that it could have been done a lot more convenient than just making a second blueprint for the whole thing. But before we get into the coding stuff, first I redesigned the actual concept. And I decided that rather than having it be projected in a rectangular frame, I decided to have it be projected out of 4 different corner points. This means that it saves me a lot of time on modeling, as well as it make it easier for proper modular scaling, which was my next point. So now, rather than needing a different blueprint, like before, I just need a single blueprint that can be scaled to any situation with simple sliders, as you can see here. And lastly, I decided to make the much needed material for the shield. And for this, I actually decided to stick to something relatively close to the original, since I really like the original material. So the only thing that I really changed is that I added a texture to the shield's swipe effect. I did this for two main reasons. The first one being that it makes the communication more clear with the player, having a circle for when the player can pass through it, and a hexagon grid to indicate they can't go through it, similar to what you would see in like a stop sign. And the second reason is that it would make it easier for people with certain color blindness, so that they wouldn't have to rely on the colors, but instead look at the texture. Right now I've got a master material for the shields, which includes world textures to avoid stretching when scaled, and overall it's pretty customizable. So I'll probably use it for all of the shields and holograms necessary in the game. The only thing that's currently missing is the faded edges as you saw in the earlier drawing. I'm not actually quite sure how to achieve that effect. At first I assumed that a Fresnel effect would work on it, but that only seems to work on things with actual curvature rather than just a flat plane. Another idea I had to solve this issue was just use an alpha texture in the shape that I needed, but that would end up causing for immense stretching when the shield would be scaled up and down. So for now, I think I'm going to leave it as is, and I'll keep looking for a solution, although currently that's not number one priority, since everything's functional and looks pretty good. Now back to some slightly smaller additions. Now, obviously, there's already a door system within the game, but these doors are exclusively for testing range areas and factory settings in the game. For the office areas, I wanted to have more traditional swinging doors, so I decided to make a system with a replaceable door model. I also made it that the door can be locked with a certain power source, or that you need a specific key card to enter it. More on that in the next devlog. Now, in the demo, there were certain monitors that you could interact with and inspect. I decided, of course, to make that system again, but with some slight improvements. That being that it now supports different models, has a changeable camera angle, and just a general, easier way of doing it. Now, it's not 100% finished this system yet. One thing that I'd still like to add is having it be interactable under certain cases, but those are only under specific story reasons, so it'll probably just be either a scripted event or a separate blueprint for this case. Now, there are two more things that I want to go over. The first one being some new additions that I made to the orb. In the demo, the orb had a screen at the top of it that displayed the current dimension the player was in. And for a lot of people, it wasn't really ideal, as it wasn't very clear due to the size and perspective. Now, one idea in a very early piece of concept art was to instead have the orb display a holographic number that indicates your dimension, as shown here. So I decided to play around with this concept, as I really liked it. And here's a little sneak peek of what that looks like. As you can see, the orb now has a holographic number floating above it, gently bopping up and down, displaying which dimension you are currently in. And the system is pretty much identical to the original, just with some minor changes like using a 3D text model rather than just a 3D widget slapped on top of it. One thing you might notice is that the number models are also using the same master material as the mono shields. Now, I'm quite happy with the concept, but the one glaring issue that I had was that it felt very static, especially when the player picked up the orb. The text and the glow surrounding it would already be there, as you can see here, so it just looked a little odd. So I decided to fix that by adding a startup animation for the orb when the player picks it up. And the text and glow will fade away when the player actually hands in the orb to the collector for the next level. It's definitely not the final animation, but it certainly gives you an idea on what I'd like to achieve. The glow is going to be a bit more dynamic and actually have a custom texture, as right now it's just a regular glow with an alpha gradient. But for now, I think it works and it gets the job done. Okay, so those are all the new additions to the game, but before I end the video, I still have one more thing to show you. Alongside making actual additions to the game, I've also been making this area here, a little collection of almost all of the mechanics that will be present within the game. It's not a brand new demo, The purpose of the testing grounds is to test out the mechanics and find bugs with your help, as I want to try and improve and minimize bugs. Now, one thing I do want to stress before you guys get very excited is that the testing grounds aren't quite done yet. My goal is to have it released next episode. There are just a few more things that I still would like to add, like a menu, a bug report feature naturally, perhaps even some user telemetry collection. Things like seeing where people go and what catches their interest first, and overall just how people play. But that's a maybe. The main purpose is just to test and find bugs. So hopefully it's something that you guys can enjoy and look forward to while the demo is still being made. In the next episode, I plan on focusing a lot on things like the testing grounds as well as audio, since I want to try and get sound in the testing grounds, but that's not a given. That's a maybe. Anyways, that's all I have to show for now. If you liked the video, please leave a like. If you want to see more updates, feel free to subscribe to the channel. And if you want to see more